At least 100 persons were massacred during the event of September 22 and October 1 in the two English-speaking regions of the country. A rights group, REDAC, has urged the government to tell military not to use live bullets on protesters. In this edition of the News All World Teachers Day, teachers commemorate Teachers Day with sackcloths angered by the killings of some Anglophones in the two English-speaking regions of the country. In Boya, during World Teachers Day celebration, Southwest Governor Bernard Okalia-Bilai says the military will be merciless and brutal to any group of persons he termed secessionists and terrorists who would disturb students and teachers while on campus. I'll be right back. Good evening, I am HANSON Chanji. Thanks for joining me in this 6 p.m. primetime newscast on EQUINOXE television. The African Network of Human Rights Defenders, REDAC, has revealed that at least 100 persons have died in the two events of September 22 and October 1, 2017 in the two English-speaking regions of the country. The REDAC says the 100 persons were massacred by Cameroon's defense forces on October 1 in the region's two English-speaking regions during celebration of Independence Day. In an outing on Wednesday, the NGO noted that 38 of the 100 deaths have been identified. At least 50 persons were seriously injured. At least 200 have been arrested, and at least 70 have disappeared. The rights NGO states that those who died were shot by military with live bullets, water cannons and tear gas. REDAC has condemned government's use of force and called on the international community to act now. The National Communication Council has warned media men to watch out with their choice of words and reporting on issues concerning the ongoing crisis rocking the two English-speaking regions of the country and also other social problems. In an extraordinary session of the council, members deliberated on how peace could be maintained by journalists in line of activity to avert hatred or cause instability in the country. It should be noted that the meeting of the NCC came barely days after close to 50 Anglophone journalists petitioned the council against a certain NS Obama Vision Card, who has been calling on the military to do its worst in the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon. And I equally told you in the top stories, the callous brutal killings in the Anglophone towns Sunday saddens the mood of teachers on World Teachers Day in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, an event which teachers also highlighted their plight. Roland Akon tells us in the following report that some were given academic honors.
On Teachers' Day in Yaoundé Thursday, some teachers are overcome by sadness following the brutal callous killings Sunday in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon.
I'm Anglophone. My brothers and sisters that way they are not celebrating. Why? Because of the crisis that we are having in the country. So that is why I just came here to exercise and see my friends and greet. So my coming here doesn't mean that I'm happy. I'm not happy at all.
Big challenging year for education in our country, knowing very well that in the southwest and in the northwest, schools are yet to begin to take off 100%. So it's a very big challenge.
Another moment of sadness, the brutal killing of the principal of the Sultan Joya High School in Fumban, in whose memory a minute of silence is observed. The big concern that could be read on the faces of most teachers on World Teachers Day in Yaoundé is the snail-paced recruitment by government of contract teachers into the public service.
We also have teachers who have their certificates from teachers training who need to be recruited. And you have a lot of PTA teachers who are teaching as PTA teachers in many government schools who also need to be integrated as full civil servants.
The issue of a status for teachers is also brought to the fore. In recognition of their hard work and contribution to Cameroon's educational system, some teachers emeritus received medals in gold from the government.
National Academy Awards that have been given to me is recognition of 30 years of service, of hard work, and the contribution I've put in place, I've given for the building of our nation through education, being able to uphold the quality of education in our country.
It shows how the long way that you've gone through the educational system. All what you've put in your best, the knowledge you had, the know-how to help
the educational system, especially in the Ministry of Secondary Education where I was working.
It will go a long way to make me satisfied that we have served the country well, and teaching in particular in this country.
Teaching in freedom, empowering teachers is the theme of this year's World Teachers' Day. It is common sense that when teachers are empowered to have a say in decision-making about their job and environment, there is overall school improvement. But do we empower them? That is the question.
In the Southwest Regional Capital, Boya, the governor of the Southwest Region, Bernard Okalia-Bilai, says the military will be merciless and brutal to any persons he described as secessionists or terrorists who want to stop teachers and students from going to school. Derek Jato reports from Boya.
The Anglophone crisis and threats on teachers were at the center of the 2017 Teachers' Day commemoration in Boya, the Southwest Regional Capital.
We cannot be talking about progress when there is no peace. Teachers who want to teach are in the classrooms. They have the chalk in their hands and they're shivering because they're expecting the next bullet. It cannot go that way.
To Governor Bernard Okalia-Bilai, time for leniency is over, and anything oppressing on the academic runway will be crushed.
Of any those terrorists or secessionists attacks a student or teacher in the school or classroom, the reaction of the forces will be brutal and merciless.
Enough is enough in a region that even the teachers say the government should give a genuine listening ear to their plight.
Somebody like a teacher cannot be posing a problem that doesn't exist. Teachers have been crying. I think that the root cause of all this is the problems teachers have been facing, and I think that the government should listen.
It is no secret to hear that schools are yet to be effective in the Southwest region. Reason why Southwest Governor Bernard Okalia-Bilai, during his speech at the Independence Square here in Boya, quoted some world influential leaders that stood for education.
When some Mandela source is up in these schools, education is the most powerful weapon which we can use to change the world. Let us therefore be guided by the wisdom of Victor Hugo, who has that, I quote, "He who opens a school doors closes a prison." Surprisingly, so-called leader wants a society without education. They want a state without education.
Yewo Victor, Southwest Regional Delegate of Secondary Education, pray for a conducive environment to enable teachers impact knowledge for a better Cameroon.
We are sometimes surprised that they are subject, they are targets of harassment or embarrassment at all levels. We want to use this opportunity to appeal to those who always target teachers for harassment to withdraw from that situation, because the aim of the teacher in life as a professional is to build and nothing else.
The turnout was another point of attraction. The grandstand witnessed for the first time some empty seat. Muki Venda Liwonjo, president of the Buya Area Teachers Association, will later tell Equinox Television why most teachers fled out of the region.
You know that considering the political upheavals that we have, many of our teachers, especially from the private sector, have moved out of the region and are teaching elsewhere. So we do not expect magic for teachers to be brought in to come and fill the spaces there. Those are the issues we are facing right now. And if you followed my speech, I clearly said that teachers are part of the society, and some of them got involved politically, and they're on their own.
Dialogue, the teachers say, is the only roadmap to end the crisis.
That was Derek Jato with the report of the day from Boya, the headquarters of the Southwest region of Cameroon. We continue talking about where teachers, they are teachers poor, are teachers beggars. Most teachers we met here in Douala say they hate when people say teachers are poor. That was the focus of the report, signed by NFOR.
Teaching, a profession that impacts almost every life. Teachers from diverse educational establishments in Douala conversed on ceremonial grounds October 5 to march in honor of the profession deemed mother of all professions.
Teaching is a noble profession. I'm so proud about it, because without teachers, no matter what you are, you have passed through the hands of teachers.
Teacher is like a candle. It burns and it's lighting to give light for others. I'm proud to be a teacher. I'm proud to be a Cameroonian.
It's a noble profession for me, because if I'm making a living through it and I'm able to bring light to young Cameroonians, I see it as a noble profession.
In spite of the vital role teaching plays in shaping persons in the society to be holistic, teachers are still regarded inferior, like poor people and beggars.
What is money? Teaching, we are impacting knowledge and wisdom.
Nobility does not look at the side of poverty. So to us who have accepted teaching, it's not the money issue we are looking at. We are looking at for the better future of Cameroonians.
Passion to dish out knowledge, irrespective of financial and teaching constraints, is preoccupation of teachers. To them, the willingness to teach comes first.
Money comes behind. Money instead misleads people. But when you have your wisdom and knowledge, you are a great man.
Being proud of the teaching profession, the teachers condemn negative thoughts about teaching, encouraging aspirants to keep their dreams.
Oh yeah, they have chosen a wonderful profession. Yeah, I encourage many people to be part of us.
Yes, I'm so proud, and I thank God for that. I will do my best to transmit my knowledge to the young generation.
Celebrating Teachers' Day to them is therefore celebrating teaching and teachers who have and continue structuring and nursing great personalities in the society. A task whose worth hands of applause.
My guest tonight is a teacher. We'll be having him in the second segment of this news. We now talk something else. The National Rights and Freedoms Commission is preparing its period documents to present before the Committee Against Racial Discrimination. The innovation for this year will be the invitation of rights groups, especially civil society organizations that fight for human rights. Roland Akong now table this report from Yaoundé.
Civil society organizations in Cameroon defending human rights are now involved in the preparation of Cameroon's periodic report to the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination.
Of racial discrimination is a body established to monitor the implementation of the...
That is the essence of the Civil Society Organization Consultation Day, organized by the National Commission on Rights and Freedoms in Yaoundé Wednesday.
The consultation is to get the idea of the civil society on board. You cannot complete, the report cannot be complete when the ideas from those who are working on a day-to-day basis is not there. And so we are here just to facilitate the process so that the civil society can look into this report, which is very important for us as a commission.
The consultation day aims to encourage dialogue and partnership between the government and the civil society organizations and the Rights Commission. Cameroon, it should be recalled, participated in the drafting of the Convention on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination.
Forceful evictions from homes and localities are major causes of social tension existing in our society today. It inflicts severe pain, suffering, and even death on the part of the citizens. The city of Douala is a case in point where hundreds are suffering today because of forceful eviction. Many of these persons took to the streets today in Douala to denounce such acts from the perpetrators. Our reporter, Babila Jonathan, followed that caravan and now filed this report.
Victims of forceful eviction hitting the streets of Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, Thursday, denouncing what they term bad governance.
Like other countries we have been seeing in the media, when the government is trying to displace a place to have something for a development of the country. They leave the particular people, give them an empty land, give them some money to build. But the case of Cameroon is not like that. They only take people like slaves that they sold in those days. We are no slaves in Cameroon. We are not refugees.
They still have sad, horrible and terrifying memories of what happened to them some years back.
On the 26th of 2014, around 4 a.m., all of us were asleep. We only heard noises of gunshots. We didn't know what was happening. Then after we got up, the population went up. We saw caterpillars, water, tear gas, police, gendarmes, and so on. Were already discouraged. They brought some of these children. They called them big hands. They even damaged so many houses with the caterpillar, which it didn't even ask anything that get your things out.
They suffered in the hands of security forces.
By then, if you take up your things to, like some of us who come from Southwest and Northwest, some of us took certain things to go from after the Mongo. The police were there and sending us back. We slept under rain and night at our guard second, more than 2 weeks with children. No food, nothing, no water, because they don't want you to go out.
They and their families have been suffering since they were forcefully evicted from different parts of Douala and their houses and some properties destroyed.
They sent us away. I was supposed to change from school. I wish in secondary school. I started in the Sibiangele. I stopped doing exercises, but after again the change us. We went on the bus. The transport was still increasing.
Children of this population are suffering, and the families as a whole. What we need now from the government peacefully is that they should either pay us some money for us to build even ramshackle houses for our children. We don't have meals. Even if we don't have a meal, we have a place to stay.
Representing the hundreds of victims of forceful eviction in Douala, they are urging government to respond to their distress call. Many of them have died as a result of shock, frustration and sorrow provoked by their forceful eviction from areas they had been occupying for several years. And this is why some of those still alive came out within the context of the World Habitat Day to draw the attention of public authorities to damages of forceful eviction on citizens, damages in some cases irreparable.
My guest tonight is a teacher, NGWANE Basil. With him, we shall be looking at the teaching profession in Cameroon. Join my guest, and I in just a jiffy. Welcome to join me in the second segment of this news. NGWANE Basil, good evening.
Good evening for HANSON.
It's a pleasure having you tonight.
My pleasure to be here.
News. Now, happy Teachers' Day.
Thank you.
Are you celebrating today?
We are celebrating, but with a deep heart, with a heavy heart, owing to what has happened today in the two Anglophone regions. I think the lives that have been lost, we are not indifferent to it.
In your own locality, tell us what happened. You must have had news back from home.
I think a lot of brutality was meted on our people in the Kupe-Maninguba, especially in Tombe subdivision. And what we hear from there is so sad to hear that peaceful protesters were being ambushed by the forces of law and order, which they were supposed to only guide them so that they should not carry out any destructions.
So you are condemning that?
I think it is not the right act, because these are people, these are Cameroonians, and as Cameroonians, their voice should be heard, and the government should take right measures rather than brutalizing the population.
Now today, what is the place of the teacher in Cameroon today?
I think the teachers have a very big place in our society, and Cameroonian teachers are not different from the teachers from other parts of the world, but of the fact that the conditions under which Cameroonian teachers are operating are not the best. If you look at crowded classrooms where you have more than 100 students in a class, you discover that it becomes a problem. But I think looking at the context of which teachers, what the teachers are supposed to do, Cameroonian teachers, I will tell you that they are more hardworking than other teachers in other parts of the world, where you have a teacher-student ratio of about 40-50.
Okay, really? So you are a teacher in the private sector. That is why I invited you to tell us your experience. How is it like being a teacher in the private sector? Being a teacher in the private sector, I think that is the most horrible part of teaching in our country, because the government has not put in place mechanisms that will enable the other partners. If I talk of the other partners, it is either the church or the private individuals who are assisting the government as far as this exercise is concerned. The government was supposed to come out and make a contract with these stakeholders so that the way the teachers should be treated will be moderate. But the government have left the teachers and Cameroonians at the mercy of these people who are out there to only to make money. Look at a case in point where, due to the strike action in the southwest and northwest last year, the mission schools refused not to pay teachers. How do they expect them to feed their families? How have these teachers been faring over the years? And even when schools have started during the academic year 2017-2018, nobody is mentioning about the areas of these teachers. But these are family people who are also having children. You want to teach children, but your children are left back at home. Will you be a happy teacher? I don't think so. So what should the government do today to make sure that the conditions of teachers in the private sector are ameliorated? I think one of the things that the government should be able to do today is to look back and sit and know that the private sector offers at least offers education to at least 30%. 30 to 40% of Cameroonians are being educated in the private sector. So the government should not underlook the private sector as something that is not very important to them. And one thing that we should understand in the private sector also is that in the government schools, they select the best students. They go in for the best. If you don't pass a list A, you are not taken. But those ones who don't even pass in list A, who pass in list B, and who only manage to pass the first school, those are the ones they send to us in the private sector. And after we must have coached them and worked on them, you find the same parents who were not able to gain admission for those children in government schools rushing back to government schools for them to get admission. So you discover that the real teachers are the teachers in the private sector, because those in the government schools, they take the best, but you still see those best failing and dismissing them for us in the private sector to work on those students. So you discover that the teachers in the private sectors are doing a great job. And if you look at the results, the end of year result, the final results, you discover that private schools are having better results despite the poor conditions under which they are working. Now, these poor conditions have they not been addressed by an association? We understand there is an association of private schools in Cameroon. There is an association of private schools in Cameroon. You have what we call the educational secretariats that is found in all the regions. But do they really listen to the plight of the teachers? Most of these people, they are there for the proprietors. How many times do they organize forums with teachers? When schools have started now, I've never seen any that the teachers have had, but you already have about 3 meetings that the proprietors have been sitting on the table and only discussing on how they will increase their school fees and then pay the teachers nothing. Really, nothing. When you look at what the teacher is getting at the end of the day in Cameroon, you cannot imagine that as a private teacher you are not proud of 9 months of salary. And if you are being even paid that 9 months, under what conditions? What is the salary? You look at what the teacher is giving and what he gains back in return. It is saddened.
You can imagine in the primary schools, the primary schools have the highest school fees. You have primary schools with about 200,000 francs in a pupil, and in that same classroom, you have about 40 people in that classroom. But a teacher who is teaching those people in that classroom doesn't have a salary of about, has a salary of about 60,000 francs. If you multiply 60,000 francs by 9 months, how much do you get it? And look at the amount of money that the proprietor is making from those same pupil in that same class. You discover that there is a problem somewhere, and that problem needs to be addressed by the government. The teachers carry home what they call karikis, allowances in the name of salaries, whereas proprietors, you see a proprietor every year he is sure of constructing a new structure because of the gains, the profits he has made.
So today, your appeal before we go to
our appeal to the government is that the government should carry out a census on the private schools and know the number of teachers in the private sector, and the government should fix a barem on the amount teachers in the primary schools. This is the amount that they are supposed to be paid. In the secondary schools, this is the amount that they are supposed to be paid. I think if the government puts that barem and they ensure that they go on the field to follow up to see whether the teachers are satisfied, I think in the near future everybody in the private sector will rejoice and say that the government is has listened to their plight.
Okay, thank you very much, NGWANE Basil.
Thank you for Hanson.
It's a pleasure having you.
It's my pleasure, and we will always want to educate our population on things concerning the education in Cameroon.
All right. It was equally a pleasure being with you in tonight's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinox Television. At 8 p.m. local time, Cedric Nufele will be here with the French version of the news. The team joins me to say good night.